So what I'm going to do is, although I'm standing here, is take you to my part of the world. I've tweaked the title of this talk. Instead of talking about can environmentalism take feminism seriously, I'm going to talk about why environmentalism should take feminism seriously and how it can do so. So those who are skeptics, I hope I can persuade you in my 7.5 minutes. And those who already are converted, I hope I can add some arguments to your basket. So why should environmentalism take feminism seriously? Because it is important not just for justice and equality, I think we don't talk enough about that or factor that in, but also of the things that economists and others do talk about for enhanced welfare and effective outcomes. And by effective outcomes, I mean effective outcomes that environmentalists care about. So I'm going to use two examples, forests and farms. Take forests. And now, you know, if you're in the US, you probably think of forests as somewhere you go for leisure, for the aesthetic beauty and so on. But in most developing countries, forests provide a great deal. They provide supplementary food for 1 in 6 persons. Globally, they provide livelihoods for over 10 million people, especially the rural poor. They provide wood fuel. 50% of wood withdrawn globally is for wood fuel. It's still the single most important cooking fuel in rural sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. It's not always a clean fuel. There's a lot of work on indoor air pollution, but you also don't want to be fuel poor, which is, even if it's firewood, you need enough. It provides fodder for milch cattle and draft animals, green manure for organic farming, and I'm sure many of you will add other things. By the way, do look at the pictures because they'll say more to you than I can speak. But most of this collection is done by women and girls. So if indeed that's the case, then women, especially from poor households, are likely to be the most adversely affected if forests degrade or decline, and I would add, if enclosed. There's unequal adverse effect on women's time, on income, on nutrition, on health. You could do the logic of this yourself. If you're collecting firewood daily, then clearly a forest degrade or decline, you have to walk longer distances. If you collect non-timber forest products from the forests and there's degradation, they're not available, it'll affect your income. It'll affect nutrition because so much of uncultivated food is obtained from forests, and so on, and it'll affect your health. But also, knowledge of forest ecosystems depends on your use. So all of us sitting here who've never gone through a really biodiverse forest won't be able to tell the uses of it. You have to use the forest and understand it. So the knowledge of ecosystems, forest ecosystems, varies by gender. Women tend to know much more of the items they collect, non-timber forest products, fodder and firewood, men more about timber species. They also therefore have differential interests, preferences, and stakes in conservation. Despite this, few women tend to be included in forest governance. So I'm going to show you in the next picture a pattern of exclusion. This is a community forestry group. There were, at the time when I was doing this research, there were 82,000 community forestry groups in India. There were about 11,000 in Nepal. This was the early 2000s. And this is a community forestry meeting in North India. Can you spot the women? Anybody? It's color-coded. So if you look at the red, those two women, they're two women wearing saris covering their heads. And this is what they say about exclusion. So it's not just not being in the meeting. Does that sound familiar from college committees? Okay, so then I asked this question. We've been talking a great deal about women's exclusion, and there's a huge amount of literature on that. Let's stop bemoaning it and be hard-headed and say, if women were included, would it really make a difference? So I started with this agnostic approach and said, let's actually look at women's inclusion and committees where they are not included. So in this book of mine, suddenly this has become tiny. I mean, I don't know what's happened to the scale, but don't worry about it. That's how books should over time. So I did this study in India and Nepal, in Gujarat, in India and Nepal. And what I found was that if you have a critical mass of women, it's not enough to have 2 women, but about 25 to 33% women, it makes a significantly positive effect, has a significantly positive effect on improving conservation outcomes. So in the case of Gujarat, groups with a high percentage of women outperformed those with mainly or only men. And what's interesting is groups which were much more inclusive in terms of social equality, if there were many more landless women, the likelihood of forests improving was 75% greater than in the case of other groups. In the case of Nepal, I'm just giving you the results of comparing all women's groups with mixed gender groups. The likelihood of the forest improving, this would be regeneration, forest canopy, and a whole range of other measures, was 51% greater than where the groups only contained men. And it also reduced firewood shortages. So I've talked about forests. It's in, and for the economists among you, I just want to assure you that I did control for everything else, other characteristics of forests, of the villages, of executive committees, and so on and so forth. And happy to share those details. So let's look at farms now. What we are seeing is actually not just aging that Twilight mentioned, but also the feminization of agriculture. And as you can see, except for Europe, the slope is upwards. Basically, it means that a larger proportion of men than women typically leave farming, go to the cities. There's also an age issue here, of course. In Europe, if you split it between Northern and Southern Europe, then you'll find that Southern Europe begins to look a bit like the global South. But the slope is upwards, which means that increasingly the future face of your farmers will be female. But they rarely own the most important productive resource for farming, which is land, agricultural land. And they have much less access than male farmers to credit, to inputs, to information on new sustainable practices. Many of you would talk about new ways of sustainability, not just organic, but also conserving water, soils, and so on. But is that information reaching them? They have less access to technology and to markets. But what if? As I said, what if for forests? What if women had the same access, women farmers had the same access to inputs as men? Now, FAO report of 2011 actually pulled together a wide range of studies across, especially from Africa, but across the globe, and they assessed that if you close the gender gaps in access to land and inputs, it would increase crop yields by 20 to 30% and agricultural growth in developing countries by 2.5 to 4%. So feminism would say, here's a win-win. Give women equal say in governing the commons, equal access to land, inputs, and technology. This will help better conserve forests, enable agroecological farming, protect the environment, and make the transition, which is allow their daughters to go to school, transit to non-farm jobs, maybe go to those cities that everybody is eulogizing earlier. But we need to go further. So what I want to say is that we've been talking in terms of very individualistic approach, individual choices and so on. I believe we need to talk not just about technological transformation, but institutional transformation. For instance, cooperation in farming. Given that 84% of farms across 111 countries are less than 2 hectares in size. Now, I heard a lot about cooperation. People don't cooperate, they're self-interested, et cetera, in earlier sessions. But partial cooperation has been around for a very long time. By this, I mean cooperation in marketing. For instance, in the dairy industry. It's all over Europe. It goes back a few hundred years. This is a picture of the Amul cooperative in India, in Gujarat, which has 3.6 million members, mostly poor. But is that enough? Is that transformative? I believe not, because you have your own cattle, and then you just market in a cooperative. What about fully integrated cooperation, which is group farming? Now, there can be a range of potential benefits: economies of scale, labor sharing, access to credit inputs and technical information. You broaden the diversity of skills, you increase the bargaining power with governments and markets, and you could better adapt to climate change. So you say, well, that's a piper's dream. No, it isn't. So here are some results. This is cooperation group farming. There are 62,000 women group farms with 4 to 10 members each. They lease in land, they pool their labor for joint cultivation. And if you have initial government support and innovative institutional structures, I find that group farms outperform individual family farms. And here are some broad results. If you have a minute to focus on this, you'll find that the women's group farms produce 1.5 times more annual value of output per hectare, and they have 5 times the net returns, annual net returns. And you can see them marketing bananas, bitter gourd, and so on. So if environmentalism took feminism seriously, it would pay attention not only to saving the planet, but also to the pathways to that end. And we would ask, well, are the benefits and costs being shared equally? Indeed, are we aiming to equalize work and resources within families and communities and by the state? And not only by gender, but also by rich and poor. So I would leave you with this question: are we doing so? Let's reflect on it. Thank you.